Don't know
I
how.
prefer spunk. Like, don't have a stroke on this podcast.
I can't. I can't. Why would you prefer
I
that?
don't know. It feels more like.
Hello, this is Black by Reality podcast, a place for Black by baddies and those who love us. I'm Nicole Weaver, your host, and today we're talking about And Just Like That, Season 2, Episode 4. And once again, I'm here with my co-host, Aramide.
Hello. I don't know why I did
Hello.
that. But yeah.
Why not? This was a wild episode, so why not start with all of the energy and
Yes.
antics?
Yes. You know that we loved it. And clearly the people and Just Like That, they live for it too. So
Yes, absolutely. What are your first thoughts in reaction to this?
so now that Miranda's back in New York, I was like, oh, like we're gonna kind of get back to the beat of the first season. Not quite
Mm-hmm.
Sex in the City, but back to that. And it felt like that for a second. And then everything imploded and crumbled around itself. And I was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a mix. I was like, oh, there's so many Sex in the City beats. Like, they're like, okay, we heard you guys and what you want. We're going to try and give you a little sex, like, dilemmas, then conversations and all of that. And still, we got a little career stuff going on in this episode, which I'm happy to see. So as you guys know, we go beat by beat. So yeah, the first scene of this, Carrie has breakfast with Jackie, which was so surprising. I can't believe we're keeping this character along, honestly.
It makes no sense, especially because like the whole bit with Jackie is that like he got sick during the middle of brunch and went to poop or throw up or something. It was just very gross and like
It was just a poop joke.
and it would have been different if like obviously like I'm all for the diversification of the show and all that, but it doesn't make sense that him and Carrie would ever continue any type of relationship. And maybe if his wife had like actually made her something decent, there would have been a way to incorporate both of them. But it just seems like
Mm-hmm.
oh, we don't know what to do this character like let's make him have lunch with Carrie. Like it was I didn't
Yeah.
like it. It didn't feel authentic
Yeah.
at all.
No. And like, as we know, the best poop joke Sex and the City ever did was in the first movie when Charlotte shit her pants.
Yeah.
After that, we do not need any other poop joke. You can't top it. But the good thing that came out of this scene is that Enid spots Carrie, picks up her things, tries to sneak out, but then Carrie does a double take and was like, oh, Enid, hey! So we're finally bringing back Vogue, something we both said should be acknowledged or somehow part of this. Turns out Enid was like, oh, you lost your husband? I lost my whole career. So
Yeah.
very
They
interesting to compare that.
They booted Enid out of the Condé Nast building and it probably smacked her in the face on her way out and told her to get the F out because she's an old biddy now. That's essentially what Enid said. And I thought it was so funny because she was always very weird and standoffish with Carrie in Sex in the City.
Mm-hmm.
And like her, like it was just such an awkward thing when you see someone like you're like, I should speak, like I just don't really want to. And she tries to do this weird like sneak thing. But it doesn't work, obviously. So they have this very awkward and uncomfortable conversation. I guess Carrie had asked her to like do a blurb for her book, for her new book about being a widow. And Enid was like, girl, if I talk about your book, I have to talk about everyone else's book because even though she's been booted from Condé Nast, she now has like a very popular newsletter. Anyway, it was just very awkward and uncomfortable. Yeah.
I kind of like this. I like that, like, the fandom, there's so many people who love Carrie and like idolize her for what she is to pop culture and the fashion and everything. But I love that actually in the show, like Carrie gets humbled repeatedly, and this character is doing the humbling. So we think, like, Enid mentions that she's starting an online magazine called Vivant for women of their age. She is very much lumping in Carrie. And Carrie thinks it's a job offer, but when she later talks to Seema, she was like, I'm not that old, okay? I like that Seema calls them sophomores, not seniors.
Yeah.
I'm taking that. I'm taking that. Um, but when Seema realizes who Carrie's actually talking about, Enid, she was like, "Oh no, no, no! This is when Seema puts on her career hat and was like, girl, get that money. Like you're
Mhm.
not thinking about that money, and I need you to."
Exactly. And I think Seema is like the voice of reason here because I would have felt a little bit offended like Carrie did because she's 50 something, like in her early 50s. And Enid is like 70 plus, which is nothing wrong with that, but they're not the same generation. Like they're not, like, not at all. This, like, Carrie is like the end of Gen X, I think, or like, and Enid's clearly a boomer, I believe. I want to. They're somewhere around that.
Totally.
Yeah, I think something like that. So she's just like, what? Like we're not like, please. But Seema's like, no, like at least see what the lady has to say. And I think that was an important thing for her because, like, obviously, like Carrie doesn't see herself as a retiree, no, but as she says, like publishing is really, really hard. Like books aren't selling like they used to. And
Mm-hmm.
though she's settled and has like the finances, especially because Big has died, like you still want your work to be read and to mean something to people. So that's important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Meanwhile, the parents of the show, well, everyone except for Miranda, so that's Charlotte, Harry, LTW, and Herbert, they're seeing their kids off to camp. Everyone's celebrating. Basically, Charlotte and Harry make it known that they're just gonna go bone the whole time. Meanwhile, LTW and Herbert just want to work. And like, it's a very different Herbert than what we got just a few episodes ago. But apparently all they do is work, and that's fine.
It was good to see them like kind of get rid of the kids for a second because I feel like they didn't really know
Yes.
what to do with the children.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so funny. Like obviously Charlotte hasn't worked in like 20 years, so she's able to like take off her mom hat for a second and just be like a wife, which she like, really revels in and like loves that role. But for
Mm-hmm.
LTW and Herbert, again, like I don't know what they're trying to do with them. We know who LTW is, but again, we don't know who
Mm-hmm.
Herbert is. Like, it doesn't really make sense. But it's nice to see them also like as a couple versus like two people running around with these high powered careers with their heads cut off, like trying to make sure their children have like clean underwear and shoes.
Yeah. Moving on to our queer characters. Miranda, she is at home. She's sleeping on the couch, which, yeah, not surprising. I mean, I think with Miranda and Steve's roles, they always been a little reversed, so it feels right that Miranda's like, I'll pack up my things. You can have the bedroom. But Steve, apparently he's been working out. He's punching this bag shirtless. He's looking good. Looking good, Steve. Looking good. And Brady is miserable. He's in bed wearing canceling out sound headphones, and he still hears everything. But you know what? They're going to therapy.
Mhm.
So
I felt so bad for Miranda in this scene. Like she looks absolutely miserable. This is the life that she literally ran away from. And she
mm-hmm.
finds herself exactly where she started, but with like out Steve's friendship. And Steve is irate. Like he's very angry, which he has a right to be. Like she blew up the life that they built
Mm-hmm.
together. And they're kind of back in their apartment just for Brady, who's also like, yes, it's important to be there for him, but he's 18 years
He's
old. Um,
18. He's going to college.
and I was kind of surprised, like maybe I'm just crazy in type A, but Miranda is too. Like I would have assumed that Miranda would like be, I guess she's not working, so being at a hotel would be a waste of finances. But
Yeah.
I would have assumed that she like, I don't know, would be at an Airbnb or like a small studio, something like that. Like I
Yeah.
just feel like it felt uncomfortable being in
Absolutely.
that space. And like obviously Brady wouldn't want to come out when like this was happening. Like I would stay in my room too. It just felt like ugh.
Well, after that, Carrie. Oh, something to mention about the Carrie and Seema thing that we did not mention. Carrie keeps getting texts from this
Mm.
man, silver-haired man named Marlon, and she's like, "I don't know you," but then he drops that little birdie gave her his the number, and it's just like,
And this
You
is
asked
when you know that boomers are involved. Because no.
a violation.
No, but it's true. Because first of all, this man is
Yeah.
somebody's grandpappy. Like
Yeah.
grandpappy, he, no. Like, no. Carrie is not old. She's 50 something. She still looks good. She still dresses sickeningly. Why are you setting me up with this ARP man?
We do later find out it's Mitzi. I think it came from a good place,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't supposed to be about love or anything. She was just like, look, this man is hung. Get in there, honey, have some fun. And then yeah, but Carrie's like, first of all, Carrie can get her own. She just had a fine man in her bed. She
Exactly.
good.
Fine being the opposite word.
Yes,
Fine.
yes, yes. Oh my goodness. But Harry and Charlotte, they are fucking. It's feeling like the old days. And Charlotte's like, I'm feeling like you can finish on my chest. He does. She's sitting there like, where is it? Well,
There's no baby batter on her
there
titties.
no, it's just dust. And so she talks about it with Charlotte, Carrie, Anthony at lunch, which
And
I
Miranda.
loved. And Miranda, yes. And it feels great. Miranda, okay, first of all, the word jizz is used multiple times. Don't know
I
how
prefer spunk. Like, don't have a stroke on this podcast.
I can't. I can't. Why would you prefer
I
that?
don't know. It feels more like versus like slimy. Okay,
Ugh.
don't barf.
Oh my god. Okay, well, just gonna try and get through this. But yeah, Miranda's like, why is this an issue? This, which is so Miranda, and once again, Carrie's like, we should have known, cause like, what do you
What?
mean? And I was like, yo, I love Miranda, because she was like a clean afterwards, like, what are we
Perfect.
complaining about? And Charlotte's like, nah. Carrie says jizz maybe 4 times in the same sentence, but she was like, it's like a old friend or whatever, an annoying friend. I would miss it if it's gone. And it's like, okay, you took forever to get there, Carrie, but you finally said it. And Anthony says that this whole situation is called dust balls. I have never heard that term before.
Never. So I was so confused because initially, when Charlotte and Harry had their interaction, I thought he faked an orgasm. That was on my brain because I've never. I guess thank God we're still a little bit of youth. Like I haven't had to deal with any dust balls in my day.
Yeah.
So like I had no idea. But Charlotte being Charlotte, like this is her new project. She's gonna figure out what is wrong with her husband. Her kid's
Exactly.
not there. Like so she's getting her research hat on to figure out.
Yeah, she loves a project, honey.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. So yeah, that's what they're up to. Meanwhile, Herbert and LTW, they're having drinks. He says, now I am embarrassed because I'm not great at local politics. He talks about delaying his run for, is it city controller or comp controller?
City comptroller.
City comptroller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's like, the kids are young, this might not be the time. And they're like, yeah, we don't have any kids. Let's head back to work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Additionally, it's their 20-year anniversary, so they're throwing a party.
Mm-hmm.
And Herbert says that he was put in charge of the invitations. And immediately,
No.
as soon as he said this,
no,
I knew some shit was about to go down.
And this is back to our first conversation about them. Why don't they both have any assistants?
They have the money, obviously. If he's just like, "Boo, you want me to give you $25,000?"
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
Charlotte and Harry, they go to the doctor, and apparently Harry's stuff is going to his bladder instead of to his penis, and so he has to do Kegels, which is like, I'm learning something new.
I guess he has a poor pelvic floor. Like, I guess, women, I don't know how it works. I know there's like a valve for men, where like if they orgasm, like it goes one way, and if they have to pee, goes the other because it all comes out the same hole. We have two different holes, so we don't have to
Mm-hmm.
worry about that. But I know if you have like a weak pelvic floor after you give birth or something, like you'll pee standing up or you'll pee when you laugh. So maybe it's kind of like that muscle that turns his
Mm-hmm.
stuff on and off just isn't
Mm-hmm.
doing what it's supposed to do. So yeah, he still feels like he came, but there's just no
Yeah.
excitement afterward. But like you
Yeah.
said, it was like, oh, very cool, like little science project for us to all learn about.
Totally. The sad fact about the whole peeing Aramide, apparently that's a very American person, birthing person problem. Yeah, because in other countries, it's covered in health insurance to do aftercare and exercises where it keeps you from peeing. But here, that's usually not covered. People
Oh.
usually don't even know that exist. So for American women or people who give birth, we think that's normal.
This is why I encourage everyone who can afford to get a doula and a midwife. If you can't afford to, go to blackdouladirectory.com, and Dove has
Mm,
scholarships for this. Like, I'm actually really serious. It's the state of healthcare, especially for women, especially for Black women in this country, is
mm-hmm,
horrific.
mm-hmm,
Um, yeah, if you can afford to, please seek out your own pelvic floor health and anything else that you may need, because these doctors don't know shit and they're gonna try to cut you open on the table, and that's not. We don't need to be having C sections if you don't need to have a C section either. Like,
right.
and this is why I shall remain child free, because this is just way too much for me. But for those who choose to be mothers, for birthing people, please seek as much information as you can. And that's our
Yeah.
PSA for this episode.
Next, Miranda, Steve, and Brady, they're in therapy, and Brady claims, you know what, I'm over Lisa, that was a breakup, but this whole thing you guys got going on, like, are you separating or not? And
Mhm.
like they're both playing dumb, so they did not talk to this boy about anything. And then he tries to push them to like just say it. And Steve's like, well, that's a private conversation between me and your mom. And it's like, is it? Like, come on. And so finally, they say, okay, we are separating. And the therapist is like, yeah, maybe we need to make steps
Mhm.
for whatever is next instead of being in this limbo. Miranda offers to look for a new place because she is the one who initiated this whole thing. But Steve says, nah, he's going to find a place close to the bar. She thanks him. And then Brady lets slip. This is such a, I feel like a divorce kid thing of like, you guys are so messy. I'm gonna drop something in, and maybe it'll go under the radar. Brady's like, oh, I'm gonna go to college in the fall, and Miranda, Brady knows his mama because he's like, you want to go off, and she. We're at a point where sadly, I think Miranda feels like she doesn't have a lot of ground to stand on
Mhm.
with these two men. Um, but Miranda, you're still the mama.
Exactly. And I think for me, even though she heard Steve in this process, she had to choose herself. And it was important for her to choose herself. How she went about it, that wasn't necessarily great, but it was never going to be great. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of being like snatching him up by the ends of his red hair, I don't condone violence, but sometimes kids need to be snatched up. Um, she like swallows it and she's like, okay. And she's like in a tirade later on to Carrie about it. But it's also like, so what are you gonna do? Are you gonna lay up in your bed with these
Yeah.
AirPods on your ears all day? Like, you don't have any sort of plan, any sort of anything. And of course, Steve is just like, okay, son, like do whatever you want. Which Steve and Miranda should have never been together in the first place, and it's so clear.
It's so it's so clear. Yeah, I just wish, like, I like actually that she does just wait a second and like, yeah, maybe vent to her friends instead of blowing up in the moment. But yeah, just some follow-up questions. So what are you going to do instead? And yeah, have
Mm-hmm.
that communication open. That never happens though. So
Yeah.
yeah, she does talk to Carrie, lets it all out. Um but yeah, and she says, yeah, I've been holding back because I'm the one who blew up our life. They go to Che's new place, and Lyle opens the door. Now, I thought, oh, is Carrie gonna start dating Lyle? Like, it is, and then it gets really messy when like one couple's not doing well, and somehow these four people get more entrenched. I could not see where this was actually going to go.
I wish I could unsee where this actually went. But you're absolutely right. So when they get there, there's this beautiful new apartment that Chase probably spending like $5,000 paying for a month, because it is New York,
Yeah.
and like they've obviously left. I'm sure they had that old apartment that was grandfathered into rent some type of a way. But Lyle is there, and Lyle has helped Che drive back literally from LA to New York City, like bought all of their stuff, done all the things, and immediately Miranda is uncomfortable. So this is like the main thing. Like at first I thought like, oh, like Carrie and Lyle would have that thing, but they're like on two different wavelengths. He's like a
Mm-hmm.
mixologist and she's just like, very New York.
Mm-hmm.
But Miranda's kind of like, okay, like Lyle, why are you here? Like no one told Miranda any information. This is still
Apparently.
Che's husband. And this is like my point with Che. Che does not communicate.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. Like, is it that, like, I don't know what it is. Like, are we not saying the thing because you don't want to scare off Miranda? Are you trying to sneakily slip her into a poly situation? Like, if so, why? Like, what's going on? Because you guys are not separated. Like, how when Miranda first like brought this whole situation up, um, Chase just claiming we didn't get to it because we're both lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, you guys are like literally like in cahoots together. Even in California to New York, y'all in each other's business. So what? And so okay, so Carrie's here. I love Carrie being the spectator of all of this because
Chaos.
she's such a straight woman. She is such a straight woman. And it's very interesting to watch. So later, after, I don't know what Miranda and Che were trying to do in the bedroom. Like, can you wait? Your
This is
friend,
New York. The apartment is as big as my hand.
and paper walls. Paper walls.
Also,
But
Miranda,
they're
you've done this last year to Carrie when she was literally recovering from surgery.
That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking that when they were all in the bed, and I was like, so are they gonna fully have sex while Lyle's sleeping right there? And this is like another Carrie situation. Is this gonna be their thing? Like, but no, it gets worse. So they're all drinking out of paper cups and like in the bedroom, sitting on the bed. It does give college vibes. Someone makes a joke about college vibes. And basically Lyle reveals like, oh yeah, we when we were married had a girlfriend. It
Mm-hmm.
was a Three's a Company situation. This was after he cut Che's hair for a show to a shag,
Because
and
he
that
used
didn't
to be a
work out.
hairdresser, which is another
Exactly.
random
In
tidbit we learned
Beverly
about him.
Hills.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. And yeah, so it gets to a point that Carrie's like, this is too much because Lyle brings up that he got pegged for the first time. That's too much for Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie, you just said jizz 4 freaking times in a public place. This is a private room and you can't handle a cis man talking about being pegged. Like, that's that bullshit. That's that bullshit.
Carrie randomly chooses one to be approved, and the other time she's fucking big in him and Natasha's house, and then making her break her tooth or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. Carrie is like, you know what? There's no Versace here for me to rub my feet against. It's time for me to leave. And she takes her leave. She wishes her best friend adieu. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's because it's also kind of involves Miranda, so it's a little bit uncomfortable. I really don't know. But she's like, I don't want to be here no more. And she knows how to make her grand exit.
I guess it just feels like this is a situation where the queer person being Miranda is never going to get like reciprocal like friendship out of Carrie.
Mm.
If we're at lunch and we can talk about Charlotte's husband's jizz, but like if pegging comes up and it's still like a straight man,
That's true.
like it's like, but it's not heteronormative that she has to
She can't
entirely
deal with it.
leave. It's like, grow up.
But I
Grow
think Carrie's
up.
also like someone who can't even talk about vaginal dryness. I don't even know if it's that. I think that she's just. I'm trying to think of like Sex in the City references, or if they've just morphed her into like a very weird version of Charlotte. And I think maybe that's what happened.
Mm,
Because I don't remember
yeah.
her being this like prudish in the Sex in the City series.
She likes to crack a joke, which why didn't she just crack a joke about the pegging? You know,
Yeah.
maybe it wouldn't have been like totally tasteful, but it's like, no, she couldn't even like deal with it. And I was like, this is dramatic as hell. Um, but yeah, so we learned about that past. Meanwhile, the anniversary party is going on, but there's only like what, 6 people there.
So Charlotte and Harry show up, and they show up a little bit late, and then Herbert's mama is in there with her stank face. Her face is bald up. Some random white man that be on every movie. He was in Alias, the daddy from Alias. So they like show up, and then LCW's daddy shows up, and I was very delighted. It was Lady Sings the Blues himself, Billy Dee Williams. Like it was sickening casting. It was iconic. But
So
they
New
have dinner
York,
for
it feels
So
New
New
York at
York.
least.
They have 31 people for this dinner. Like they 31 lobsters and all this, and there's just like 6 people there. Because why? Why, Nicole? Why has this happened?
Because Herbert didn't press send on the invitations. Awful.
Like just and my thing is it's such a ridiculous thing and such a man thing to do because LTW was like when they were trying to figure out what happened, she was like, were you tracking the RSVPs? Because I think whatever they use, like the little post thingy, it will tell you how many people have RSVP'd or not. So the only people that are there are people that they told verbally to come.
Yeah.
Um, just very bizarre.
It is, but you know, everyone tries to put on their brave faces, try to be
Except
there for this
for
couple, except for the mama. I
she's
want to like
awful.
this character. I
She's
really do,
awful.
but they're making it so hard for me to like
They
this
should have had
character.
Diane Carroll play her, and she should have played her like not sorry, not Diane
Ooh.
Carroll. They should have had oh my god, I cannot think of her name. She was in Eve's Bayou. Lynn Whitfield. They should have Lynn Whitfield play the character
Mm.
because she plays a similar character in Greenleaf, Lady May. She's a first lady of a church, and she's like very nice, nasty, but her lines
Mm-hmm.
are iconic. Like
Yes.
like that's what you need
Yes.
versus like this
You
lady just
do.
seems like very mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark is played by Victor Garber. Apparently, he owns a gallery, and I knew exactly where this was gonna go. He sits next to Charlotte. She's been so helpful to him all night. And they make him have a 10-year-old son. That don't make no sense. A
No,
10
the
year
man is
old?
74 years young. I guess Robert De Niro
No.
and Al Pacino just had kids and they're like
No.
80
We should
something.
not condone this by writing
He should have
this.
said his grandson or something. Like that would have
Yes.
made more sense.
But whatever.
Um,
And you know, Charlotte, she can relate with kids, so she's giving advice on that. But at the end of the night, he's like, "Hey, want to be my girl at the gallery?" He does talk about like picking up phones and stuff, and I'm like, "Ooh, you're making her start all the way to
from
the
the
back." But I
beginning.
also don't know what else you do in a gallery. So, but she's like, "No, you know, I'm still focused on my kids." And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "Okay, well, open invitation. I wish I can get an open invitation for a job."
Listen, I think Charlotte will come back around to this. Obviously, she hasn't worked since Trey proposed to her in like 2003, her first husband, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like I respect women to do whatever they want, but I always think it's so sad when women are so quick to leave the careers that they work so hard for. Like, and I get it. Like, she wants to focus on her kids. They do need her because they're teens, but
Mm-hmm.
Rock and Lily are not like 4 years old either.
No. So back to Che, Lyle, and Miranda. So Lyle passed out on the bed, and Che's like, "Oh, we can't make this man sleep on the broken couch." So he's just there now. And now Che and Miranda are also sleeping in the bed. But then all of a sudden, Che wakes up horny and just starts, rubbing up on Miranda. Miranda's like, oh my God, Lyle's right there. And she again says, like, this is giving college vibes because sometimes in college, people be doing things in their dorm room because they really got no other place. But yeah, so it looks like they're gonna move forward with it, and then Lyle's ass peeks up out of nowhere over Che's back and is starting to get into it. And Miranda was like, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up.
There's so many. Okay. First of all, if I'm Miranda and Che obviously sees their husband, who's still their husband legally, laying in the bed, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to make him get up," I would have called Uber. Hi Uber, please come and collect me because like I haven't seen you, and this is again, Che only thinks about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But fine, Miranda lets that slide, which is very unlike Miranda. So Miranda's already outside of their comfort, outside of her comfort zone. So then they're like getting it on a little bit with Lyle sleeping. Miranda's still outside of her comfort zone. But then for this man to wake up and try to join in, and you could see Miranda's trying to like taper down her visceral reaction toward the situation. And I was just like
Mm-hmm.
very upset for her because,
Mm-hmm.
and I get it, like threesomes like don't necessarily, no one talks about things and all that. But Miranda is so clearly uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
that, and Chase just kind of like, oh, are you like all right, but not really. I don't know. I hated it.
Yeah, Che, once they're like, is this okay? And Miranda was like, I need to think about it. And Miranda starts processing out loud. Che basically calls Miranda a party pooper and was like, you're making this unsexy by talking about it. First of all, consent is sexy. Let's get that straight. Communication is sexy. Literally talking about the dynamics of a threesome, like who's penetrating who's kissing who,
Mm-hmm.
what aren't we going to do? That can be sexy. If you don't got it, if you don't got it to make that sexy, that's on you. Work on it. But it can absolutely be sexy. Yeah, it was a lot of Che and Lyle trying to push Miranda's boundaries into this. And it just sounds like they're probably in cahoots about something,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe there's like an unsaid understanding between them because they've done this stuff before. But it sounds like it's two against one right now.
And
And
it's
who's
not even
actually.
like, again, and I'm not saying like Miranda has to like be dating Lyle also or know anything about him, but she was clearly uncomfortable when she opened the apartment door and he was there. So
Yep.
I don't understand how this moved from 1 to 0 so quickly. It just made me like very much hate even more. And I think it's because I find them to be a very selfish and self-centered individual.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it, like maybe, they were a people pleaser, or maybe like really stepping into who they are has really like made them be like, F all of y'all, I'm tired of doing what everyone else. And I get all of that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's starting to me to feel like it's at Miranda's expense.
Like, it's ridiculous because I'm thinking so much about all the things Miranda gave up, and that's her choice. I think she gladly made those decisions because obviously something else was calling to her.
Mhm.
But Shay doesn't seem to want to make any decisions or lose anything, and is just trying to move around like everything's dandy when Miranda's like literally in therapy with her ex talking about a separation. Like are they not talking about that? And if so, Miranda should. Like it would
Mhm.
deepen their relationship and bring some more like emotional depth to it. The only emotions I remember in this relationship right now is all about Che and what Che was going through with the freaking show.
I think Miranda tiptoes around them, and I think that is going to be a huge thing. Like she tiptoes around Che because this is all new to her in so many ways, and she's
Mm-hmm.
afraid of losing Che. And I think Che
Mm-hmm.
uses that to their advantage, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
purposely or not. It just, I don't know, like this whole scene felt very icky to me. I
Yeah,
didn't care for it at all.
I didn't either. I'm really turning the tide. I'm really upset that this is like the first experience that Miranda's getting. And especially like I can see Miranda actually being a little bit excited of like decentering men, cis men
Mhm.
from their love life. And then this happens. Like a man's there taking up space. Like
I mean, you forced yourself to like not be crazy. Like all Miranda did was like, oh, like why is Lyle here? Like she didn't get upset really. She was literally just trying to understand. But it was clear that she didn't. She just wanted her romantic reunion with Che. Like she wanted Carrie to say hi to
mm-hmm,
Che. You know, Carrie exited stage left, and she thought she was gonna have this like sexy reunion evening, and it did
mm-hmm.
not turn out like that. So she gets up like after getting like either she purposely got a Charlie horse or she actually got a Charlie horse. I don't know. But
Ooh,
she,
Charlie
that hurt
horses
so
during the
bad.
deed.
It hurt so bad. I haven't had a Charlie horse since I was a kid, thank God. But I remember waking up in the middle of the night screaming and my dad shoving a banana in my mouth like a potassium. But yeah, it's very painful. So she like stumbles out into the living room and like lays on the dilapidated couch.
And like and this is the thing, the writers are trying to confuse me or like confuse queer people in this because it would be so easy if Che was so clearly a selfish asshole all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, even though Miranda's like, you guys can keep going, Che leaves, joins Miranda on the couch, and like cuddles her and stuff. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, here you're being supportive. Like there's always like a little crumb. And like, yeah, going back to your comparison with Carrie and Big, I think Che gives a little bit more sensitivity and
A
compassion to
thousand
Miranda.
percent than carrying big. 1,000%.
Yeah, yeah, but this is still trash.
Yeah, it's not at
Yeah.
all. And I know that we're used to Steve being so loving and caring. And even Harry, this just feels like it's clear to see why someone like Che could string someone else along because they're like very
Mm-hmm.
manipulative in a way. So it
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes you feel like you're the crazy one in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't like it.
This is like also just it's still real. It's very real, and
Mm.
it's something that I think a lot of like baby gays or gays who remember them being in their first like relationship or anything, it's like especially with someone with more experience, um fully relatable. But I think it's still
Mhm.
something to keep in mind for the baby gays out there is like your first person, yeah, you might have such high hopes. You're very excited and you just want to keep the thing going because you probably waited for however long for this experience. But still don't like abandon yourself. You know, part of
Mhm.
coming out is like accepting and loving yourself. And that also means when you find out like or figure out your partner's not like making you feel good or anything, like don't abandon yourself for like that experience because queer love is beautiful,
Mhm.
it when it's reciprocated and healthy.
Yeah. And even seeing Miranda try to process out loud was so sad to me because
Mm-hmm.
normally Miranda would be like, "What is going on?" Like you said, she's abandoning herself in this situation, and she was clearly uncomfortable letting Lyle and Che continue, but like she just very much kind of carried her way out the room, like literally pun
Yeah,
intended.
yeah, I need the bold Miranda, the bitchy Miranda
Mm-hmm.
who gave literally zero
Zero
fucks.
fucks, zero.
She should only be leaning more into that with
Mm-hmm.
age, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow it's like becoming dulled. It's
Yeah.
very weird. um yeah. Our last scene though is that Carrie goes to Enid's event. Apparently, it's more of a fundraising event. Gloria Steinem's there. So everyone is excited about that. And Bitsy is there too. She reveals that she gave Marlon that number. She like sends an unsolicited dick pic to Carrie to be
That's
like,
not attractive. It very much gives like, girl, I just ate.
no, no. Carrie looked at her like during Gloria Steinem, bitch. That's what we're doing. And I liked when Carrie does talk to Steinem and was just like, yeah, I'm starting to like battle my own ageism because
Mm-hmm.
why do I want to separate myself so much from these like great women in this
Mm-hmm.
room and like why can't I take this job writing for this audience? So she has a change of heart. She goes up to Enid and Enid, she was like, oh, Enid, I'll take that job. And Enid's like, I don't want you to work for me. I want your money.
Yeah.
Your husband died. She literally paints it as like you came into some money. Um,
You give me
please.
some funding for this startup.
So we're starting to talk about, okay, if I give you some money, where can you put my book in
Mm-hmm.
this newsletter? But then that gets interrupted because so Carrie took a picture of Gloria Steinem and Enid. Enid, this is a very actually like young move. Enid's like, let me see these pictures before you post it anywhere because I've been done dirty. And then she flips to see a dick, and somehow Enid immediately knows that's my man stick. And why do you have my man stick on the phone?
And Carrie tries to explain it away. She was like, first of all, Mitzi was trying to set us up. Like, I would never date nobody that damn old. And immediately Enid is offended. And so she's like, but I would date an old ma'am, you're 25 plus years older than Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm not trying to be ageist, but
It's facts. It's facts.
like, are you delusional? Like, are you, and
Yes.
also ask your man why he is spreading dick to and fro across New York City.
Why?
Ask your man why Missy even had a picture of his dick.
Exactly. Wild. Wild. Enid and Carrie are kind of one and the same. Like they're both in very shameful circumstances.
Yes. Yes.
It's wild. It's wild. So in the end, maybe it's a joke, but Carrie's like, oh, like I'll give you some money now that your man Stickles on the phone. No, give her some money because that book is going into that newsletter, Carrie, and I don't want anything
Exactly.
less.
So I think she's gonna give some money, and that's kind of like how the episode ends. One thing we
Yeah.
didn't mention that I want to go back to is
Mm-hmm.
that during this chaotic 20-year anniversary between LTW and Herbert, um, Herbert's mother and LTW's father are going back and forth.
Yeah.
And basically, LTW's father is like all he cares about is money. Like he's just like
Mm-hmm.
a capitalist and blah blah blah. So after they've agreed that Herbert will not run for comptroller, LTW tells the entire room, well, it's only 6 people, it tells everyone that Herbert is actually going to run for comptroller because he cares about the people of New York City. And it's like, why
All of
would you do
this
this
to
to
prove your
yourself?
daddy something? Like y'all grown. Y'all
So remember when I said
grown.
she about to have a black lady nervous breakdown this season? She gonna have it, and she done bought it upon herself. Cause why you told that man to run for office after that y'all agreed not to?
Exactly. So yeah, that's the episode. I really enjoyed it. Um yeah, I really enjoyed it. It felt in some ways like things returned to form. We got two wild sex circumstances and I just hope Miranda opens up about her situation more because does she really talk about the stuff that's going on with Shay with the other women?
No, and I wonder if it's because there's no Samantha there who also had her own queer experience, or if it's because like she's kind of ashamed of not at all her sexuality, but she's ashamed of like blowing up her life. She's ashamed of like running behind
Mm-hmm.
someone who like seems very lukewarm about her in some ways. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if anyone's gonna call her out on it. Like I feel like Charlotte always romanticizes the relationship. Carrie don't have no room to talk to nobody about nothing. So it would have been Samantha to be like, Chase leading you on. Like she doesn't have anyone to check her. And maybe it'll be Naya, but Naya, who also wasn't in this episode at all, is also like in her own.
Yeah.
So really,
Yeah.
she needs Seema to do it, but she doesn't know Seema at all. So
Did we have a BB moment this episode? A beautiful black moment.
let's see. LTW always looks like kind of basically just watching Billy Dee Williams walk into that room was like
Yo, I
so good.
couldn't
I
contain. I couldn't contain.
screamed.
And our most chaotic bisexual moment of the episode. I mean, do we even really need to say it? Che trying to get a threesome with their husband and their girlfriend.
Che needs to go. Like, just...
Absolutely. And like, yeah.
Finally, you're on my side.
I agree. I'm moving there more and more. And after seeing Steve shirtless this episode, I'm like, if we're gonna do a polycule, then we both get to keep our husbands. But yes, it's nice that we now have some queerness in this show, but it still feels so separate from all of the Sex in the City and just like that. And it's like it can meld better. Like it doesn't have to be weirdly separate. So yeah, so good talking to you today. And thank you guys for joining us. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, ring the little bell to get notifications. If you're listening to us, rate us 5 stars if you can. And yeah, our recaps go up the morning after. So keep looking out for us. Bye.
Bye.